Adonai, our God, King of the universe, who gives us the Torah of truth and the good news of salvation to his people Israel, and to all the peoples through his Son Yeshua, the Messiah. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Dave. Okay. Right, you guys have lots of homework to do, right? So we're going to go to Exodus 12 because we never finished the portion last week. And basically, you're clever people. We went through quite a bit of stuff last week, right? Okay, calendars, timelines, okay, finishing off our plagues. Oh, coming to the last one that we're looking at now. Alright? And then God, for the first time, gives these people something to do. Okay? The plagues beforehand. Alright? Did Israel have to do anything to accept stand and watch? Yes, no? Alright? This was about God showing the people. Remember, it was different focus groups. He was teaching Israel, he was teaching the Hebrews, he was teaching Pharaoh, he was teaching all the Egyptians, he was teaching the world. Okay? Who is God? So this is a one-on-one competition against the real God and all the other deities of Egypt. Okay? And God slowly but surely deals with a few of them. Each plague was an attack on at least one, sometimes two, three, maybe even four different deities at the time. Okay? So as he comes in and he says something like the Nile, okay, you believe the Nile will give you life, I will show you it brings nothing but death. Where's your Nile? Okay? Frogs. The resurrection goddess. Lie in a heap, decaying. You think resurrection comes from this? I don't think so. I am the real God. Okay? And time again, it was basically Moshe, Aaron, just go and say this is going to happen. And in certain times he didn't even mention it, he just went out and he did it. Okay? But it was always at God's time and it was removed at God's time. Alright? What else do you remember? What else has struck you about the plagues or the wonders so far? Anybody?
Hardening of Pharaoh's heart.
Okay? So, for the first, how many plagues did Pharaoh harden his own heart? 6 plagues. Okay? For the first 6 plagues, Pharaoh acts stubborn and then God hardens Pharaoh's heart. Okay? What else?
It was to show him it was real.
Okay, the plagues had purposes. Yeah, okay. Plagues 1, 2, 3 was to show what?
God is real.
That God is real.
He's not equal.
Now that's good. Okay? That God exists. First starting point in every believer's walk, you have to believe that the God of the Bible is real. Okay? Plagues 4 to 6.
They can distinguish between his people and others.
Right, he can distinguish between his people and who's not his people. Okay, Scripture says that I will show you that I am God in this land. How can you possibly be? You're the God of the Hebrews. You're not in Hebrew land, you're in Egypt. Well, I can show you, and there's a cool wordplay again. I can show you that I can descend into bondage to show the world who I am. Okay, again, it talks about Yeshua, time and time again. Alright? And in plagues 7, 8, and 9, he has no equal. Alright? Remember, he was lovingly teaching them, giving them opportunity to listen, to move, to act out on God's very word. If you truly believe that this God can do these things, act that way. Remember the hail. Tomorrow there's going to become a massive hailstorm. And they're going to be so big that anything that is left outside is going to be struck down dead. This is plague number what? Have a look in your notes. 6, 7, somewhere around there. Okay? You're pushing the point where God has slowly showed you that He's real, that He's more powerful than Egypt's gods. Okay? He shows you that He can distinguish between His people, and now He's showing that He has no equal. And He goes, if you choose to leave your stuff outside, just remember, this is what's going to happen. And He proved Himself 6 times before. How much more evidence do you need? How many times does God have to come into our lives to prove that He's there, that He's real, that He's in control? And He can protect you even from serious destruction. But at the same time, teach you. I'll say it again. The main purpose of these plagues or wonders is to get into your heart to show you who He is. This is not judgment. This is love. God shakes heaven and earth to get your attention, to save you from your own destruction. And then we have that choice. Do I listen? Do I believe that God is real? Or do I act according to my own discernment, my own understanding? Okay? What else has struck you? Alright. Not much. Okay. So we come to the point where God goes, alright, now's the time. The culmination of everything is at hand. After this, Pharaoh is going to chase you out of the territory, and you're going to go to the people and you're going to say, look, you've got a really nice bracelet, and I really like that cloak, I really like this. And they're going to give you a positive dispensation towards you, and then they're going to give you stuff. And they're going to chase you out because they don't want to die. They just want to get rid of you because you're the problem. How many of you feel that way when you go into a place where believers are a bit scarce? You come, get positive feedback. You go and you bring light. So no. You go and you bring light to this place, and you're standing over there and you're declaring with all your heart that this is what's important, this is what's real, and people look at you and go, wow, I just can't wait until they leave. This is awkward. Maybe I should put down the 13 shot of tequila, because Vince is looking at me funny. Okay? Time and time and time again, we kind of get pushed to the side. And this makes it extremely difficult for believers who kind of, like myself, kind of had the wake-up call around the age of 20, 25, maybe some of you earlier, some of you later, but all of a sudden those people that were your friends and all your mates that you partied with and all the rest of it actually sit there and look at you now and go, oh, should we invite Vince? You don't really want to invite Vince because it's a little awkward. Because they want to do what they want to do, and when you're standing in the room,
you're the killjoy.
Yes, you're the anchor to the disco. Because you're the one sitting there and you want to talk about other things. How's your life? How's your kids? That's good. You know, what have you been up to? Well, you know, fellowship, doing the thing. It's going really well. And they sit there with their drink thinking, this is lovely. You know, I will sip gently on this whiskey. And you know, and for many of you, I know it did for me, it was kind of like a slap in the face. You're like, oh, why don't they want to invite me anymore? What did I do? You know, these people I've known for years. And then the light bulb went on and go, oh, well, I don't really fit in there at this point in time. So if they want to do what they want to do, how they want to do it, they don't really need or want me there. Because you bring the light, you bring the conscience. So that when you come into that phase, and then we take it personally, I want to encourage you. When you start reflecting God, and you start bringing that light, what does the Bible say about a light in dark places?
Expose it.
You expose it. Will the darkness love you for it? No. You hurt their eyes because you shine on things that they are justifying. It's okay. This is what we do. This is how we should act. Guess what? When you come into that room, you're saying, maybe we should reconsider our way of thinking, because I had to. And I had to realize that everything that I was doing was only destroying myself. And I was never bringing me purpose, it was never bringing me peace, it was never bringing me anything except destruction. But by the grace of God, I'm standing here before you today. and you go through this process of bringing light, and this is exactly what's happening here, the more God is reflecting on His people, the more He's showing, the more He's investing, the more He's coming to you with mighty powers and works. And He's standing there before you going, you are my people, I will be your God, because He never forgot the covenant He made with Abraham. Remember Shavuot? Okay? When you start talking about the new covenant, okay? Those same words are echoed throughout. I will be your God, you will be my people. Every covenant that God makes is layer upon layer upon layer upon layer with His people. They expand it. They don't nullify it.
Was the covenant made with Abraham a new or renewed?
Well, for him it was new.
Was it new?
Okay? But remember, the word new covenant only comes a lot later, and that actually comes out of more church doctrine than anything else. When you have your New Testament, it's not a biblical word. Okay? But when He says, when I cut on you a new covenant, you could use that new covenant, can be translated as renewed covenant. Just like, for instance, when you and Nick, one day, 30 years down the line, married, you want to renew your wedding vows. Okay, remember, he betrothed himself to a people. Right? He made promises to a man who long past, and God will honor those promises, and He'll remember those promises to the point. Nick made promises to you on your wedding day. And you made promises to him. And after 30 years, you walk down the aisle again, and you go, yes, please, give me 30 more. It doesn't nullify what you promised before. It further enhances what you're already standing for. That's why He uses the same language. That's why He echoes the same sentiment. Okay, it's very, very important. God builds upon section for section to reveal Himself in new and exciting ways. It doesn't take away who He was to Abraham, and now He's different because He came as Yeshua. As we've seen as we study Torah, many of these images here, and this is what we're going to focus on today, are actually telling you what He's going to do as Yeshua. Does that make sense? Okay? So, He comes up and He's got a whole bunch of funny lists of things. Alright? And we read through these lists about, okay, what is God? What do we need to do? And we have this sort of, what we're going to do today is we're going to do an Old Testament, New Testament parallel. Right? For those of you who have been with us for a few years, this should be easy peasy for you. For those of you who are new, okay, this is going to hurt your brain a little bit. Right? What's going to happen is something that God instituted here. Meticulous detail, where He said you will celebrate this for eternity. It will be an eternal time of celebration. Every year at the same time you will celebrate this, and later it says, and you will teach your children. When they go, why is this night special? What is going on here? You will answer them. So that you're continually reminded about what God did. And when you start to understand what God did, when it comes to Yeshua's time, you start to understand what He was doing. And now we can look back and we look at the first Passover, in a sense, and what we could call the second Passover. Pesach has come circle and circle. Because the writer expects you to understand the first one, and we don't. We laid the foundation last week, so that the second one comes, we can start to look at that and go look at the comparisons. Now obviously we don't have enough time to pick up scripture and verse of every single little piece. We will be here until Wednesday. Alright? So what I've done is I've basically made a guideline, but that's for me. You guys are going to start educating me today. Okay? Alright. Alright, so basically what we're going to do is I'm just going to write you, although I don't really like the word Old Testament, New Testament, we're going to use it so we can give a basic reference. Okay. And our main focal point is Pesach, Passover. Alright, and I want you to look at Exodus 12, alright, and I want you to tell me, you guys we're supposed to know this. I want you to tell me, what was God's instruction in the Old Testament? What are they supposed to be doing? Before the blood, where do we get the blood from?
The lamb.
The lamb.
Look for a spotless lamb.
Okay, so we have to hunt for an unblemished sacrifice. Alright, I'm just going to write a lamb. Lamb or goat, right? Okay, perfect. And 1 year old. Okay? So, Old Testament, we have this, right? Take. New Testament, let's fill this in after we learn this stuff.
Yeshua comes.
Let's fill that in. Alright, so, 1, we've got a lamb. What do I do with that lamb?
Inspect it.
Inspect it. When do I take it in? To my house.
10th day.
I take it in on the 10th day. So it comes into my house. In the house, on the 10th day,
Keep it till the 14th.
and keep it until the 14th day. And what am I doing during those 4 days?
Inspecting, making sure there's no damage.
Right, inspecting, focusing on it, making sure. Okay? So this is a time of inspection. Alright. Shame for a lamb. By the 4th day, it's probably got a name. Feeding it with the kids next to you, and you're going, no, don't get too close to that. Okay? Alright. What do I do with this lamb on the 14th day? Slaughter the lamb at what time?
Dusk.
3 o'clock.
Sunset.
Okay? Plus minus 3 o'clock. Okay? Scripture calls it twilight. Alright? Okay? So what we're going to say here is plus minus 3 p.m. slaughter.
And then come
Why do I have a feeling we're going to run out of board? Alright. Okay? And then what am I going to do with that lamb?
share it. You're going to roast it.
You're going to roast it in a fire.
Not
Specifically says you will not boil it. Okay? This is imagery that we need to pick up on, alright? It needs to be roasted. What do I do with this blood?
Take a hyssop branch and paint it on the doorpost.
Alright, very specific. A hyssop branch. And I paint on the doorpost. I'm just going to do this. On the sides and on the lintel. Okay? Alright, we're going to have some fun with this. I'm definitely going to run out of space. Alright. Okay, then what's going to happen? We eat it. Okay, and whatever is left over, you burn.
You must eat it fully dressed. With cold.
Alright. So used to spelling my surname, that looks funny. Okay? Alright, yeah, for those who don't know, my surname is Byrne, but it's spelled B-Y-R-N-E. Okay, Irish people are very, very confused. Alright? So, you burn the leftovers. Okay? What else? What are we doing, or let's say, when is God coming over the land of Egypt? Midnight, okay? He's coming in the middle of the night. We don't know exactly, you're not going to pinpoint an hour, but what happens is, later he says, this will be a night of vigil for you. So pay attention. Remember, you're sitting in your bed, you've eaten all this stuff, you've seen what he's done. God says, get ready, you're leaving. When you eat your meal, you eat it with staff in hand, sandals on your feet, and you are girded. That means ready to move. Alright? It's going to happen now. And you sit there and you're going through this whole process of, okay, what's going to happen? Okay, now everybody, tummy is full, please, let's go try and get some sleep. God's going to pass through and He's going to hold the gods of Egypt accountable. He's going to judge the gods of Egypt tonight. How many of you are sitting in your beds going, or how many of you are freaking out about what's about to happen? How is God going to judge the gods of Egypt? How is He going to come through Egypt Himself? So I would imagine many people just trying to put their kiddies to sleep if they have little ones. Otherwise they're sitting there going, how do you think this is going to happen? What's going to happen? I don't know, but we need to be ready. Are we going to sit? Are we going to take turns sitting up? Because when it happens, we're going to have to get ready to move. I don't want to sleep through this. This is going to happen now. It becomes a night of vigil. Pay attention. Okay? Alright. I'm running out of space, so I'm going to try and keep it more or less over there, alright? Then what's going to happen? God comes through and He judges. Okay? We know every firstborn child, every firstborn animal dies.
Wasn't the Pharaoh the first one? Because he was Pharaoh.
It is an argument to be made. We don't know if he had a brother or not, because remember, his name's not mentioned. Okay?
But his son took his place.
His son would have taken his place. But I could also make the argument that God is still reaching out for Pharaoh. Okay? So, in my opinion, I think he would have been, but that's not scriptural based at all. But I think God saves him from this so that he would be able to tell the world and give them that testimony. Okay? But unfortunately, Pharaoh being Pharaoh, we know what happens a little later. Okay? The crossing of the Red Sea, the last God falls. Pharaoh himself with all of his might and all of his chariots and all the rest of it. Okay? So God goes through this process of teaching this whole notion, going through teaching them something very, very important. Okay? We've got a couple of images here. Very, very important images. Alright? New Testament fun. Okay. Now remember, we're not even going into the lead up here. Alright. You get a lamb, a male lamb, who's unblemished. Scripturally, Yeshua himself is that lamb. Alright? It says in 1 Corinthians that he is our Passover lamb. And he was spotless. Remember, they had to bring false accusations against him. What was their basis? What were they telling him, or what were they testing him with?
Torah.
The Torah. Remember, this was the Sanhedrin. These were Pharisees. These were Sadducees. These are people that have committed their lives to walking. Well, in theory, not all of them were, remember? There was a lot of hypocrisy going on in that time. That's why Yeshua was very hard on some Pharisees, hard on some Sadducees. But there were also times where Pharisees actually became his disciples. They believed him. Nicodemus was one of them. He was actually on the Sanhedrin. Okay? Check me on that. He's not a Pharisee or Sadducee, but he's one of them. Alright? So he comes up, and these guys who are supposed to be standing there in their fullness, declaring outwardly, how do I declare outwardly how pious I am? There's a lovely Hebrew word called dati. Alright? Slang word is very frum. Okay? That means he's extremely, extremely, extremely religious. Okay, and they go a little bit overboard. They do a lot of things that I disagree with. So, like on Shabbat, for instance, today, you will not brush your teeth with a normal toothbrush. You will brush your teeth with your finger. Okay? Like, it's the same thing. Don't understand why would you use a finger instead of a toothbrush. But they go that far to try and stop themselves from breaking Torah. Okay, the problem is, today, in my opinion, they built so many fences around Torah, they don't know what Torah says anymore, and they only study the fence. Okay? If we've come from a very similar background, yes? Man says, man says, man says, man says, man says, whether it's rabbi or whether it's church father. Oh, yeah, no, because my pastor said. You don't really know what God said. Surely we should come back to what God said first, and then we should test it against what your pastor is saying, and then you can either follow man or you can follow God. Choice is yours. Okay? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Okay? That's why we test everything, guys. That's why I read this step by step for you, so you cannot say, Vince said, you said, well, it's actually written down. This is God's instruction. Where does this come into my life? How does it affect me? So that you're not following me, you're following God. That's the whole point of this. Okay? So an unblemished man who had to bring false accusations. They could not find one instruction that he had broken. He was perfect. Okay? We have an unblemished man, Yeshua himself. Yeshua. Alright. The house and the 10th day to the 14th day.
Well, he walked into Jerusalem.
No, he walked into Jerusalem.
No, but on the day of Palms.
Triumphal entry. Okay? The day he came in riding on a donkey.
And you can actually calculate that perfectly.
Right. If you look at the prophecy in Daniel chapter 7, scholars have gone and they've looked at the prophecies and they've looked at the dates and they've added this thing up to that day. According to their reckoning, he appeared. There will come the Messiah, the Son of Man. Alright, and remember that sort of parallels and lobs over with, I think it's in Isaiah where it says, behold, he will come running to you humble on a donkey. Okay? And he comes in on that day, he appears on the Mount of Olives. What do we do with olives? Press for what? Okay, first press is always for the best stuff. Extra virgin olive oil, main purpose, anointing. The Mashiach, Messiah, literally means the anointed one. So the anointed one comes down on the mountain of olives. And he comes riding on a donkey and they start waving palm branches. Okay? So if we do our calculations correctly, it comes exactly on the 10th day of the first month. Alright? He comes riding on a donkey and they're waving palm branches and they're saying what? Oceana, Oceana. What does Oceana mean? Save us. Save us. Save us. Save us from what?
From the pressure.
Save us from the pig-eating pagans. Get the abomination out of the temple. These guys should not be in control. They are ungodly. They bring their harsh worship here. They are oppressing us. Pesach is a time of redemption. You saved us from Pharaoh, oh God. Now let it be the time that you save us from Rome. Remember, Caesar also declared he was God. Coincidence? Setting the stage. Okay? And he goes up against them. Little bit by little, Yeshua declares and he shows. He teaches his people. And he does the same three things. I don't have time to go into it, but do yourself a study. Before this moment, he actually, all of his wonders, his miracles, actually fall into those three different categories. One, I'm real. Two, I can distinguish between my people and not. And three, I have no equal. Okay? Nowhere more evident is it in I have no equal when he's raising a man who was dead for 4 days. That had never been done before. Healing a blind man from birth. It's impossible. No prophet before has ever done that. No one can claim that. And Yeshua is saying, pay attention. Pesach is coming. Let me take you a little bit further back to even set the stage even more. Remember, they go up to a mount, the Mount of Transfiguration. You know the story? Okay, he takes up 2 of his disciples, he goes up, and then all of a sudden he's lifted up and his clothes are turned as white as snow, and he's having a conversation with 2 people. Who are those 2 people? Elijah and Moses. So what are they talking about?
We don't know.
It actually says. Go check your Gospels.
Isn't it building a tabernacle?
No, that's what the disciples wanted to do. They said they were discussing about the Passover to come. Okay? Moshe, Eliyahu, the one who was supposed to come before the Messiah, the one who went to the original Pesach, speaking to the Lamb. Stage is set. From that point up, he goes to Jerusalem. And we have our 10th day entry. Oceana, Oceana, save us from these pagans. And he cries. And you have heard me talk about this before. The word here, you have 2 different types of crying in Hebrew. You have weeping softly and crying really loudly. When he was raising Lazarus from the tomb, he wept silently. So while he's doing it, people are mourning, they don't know what's going on, and tears start running down his cheeks. Here he's riding on a donkey, he's coming in, they're declaring him as king. Here he comes. It's time. Watch out, Rome. And he starts crying loudly. Kind of the wrong reaction, yes? Triumphal entry. Why is he crying?
Because they don't know. They don't know that he's the one.
Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, if only you knew what would bring you peace. How I long to gather you unto me like a hen gathers her chicks. They missed the point. All about physical comfort, all about physical kingdom, and he came to establish something so much more, as was stipulated in that same portion, Daniel chapter 7. It says he will be lifted up and he will be cut down, not because of his own doing. He came and he would be lifted up for a time and he would die. That's Daniel. If they knew what they were looking for, and if they understood the scriptures, what God has said, it would be no surprise to them. He actually came to fulfill this purpose, to be a sacrifice. Yes, he came to teach. He came to realign people. He came to show them, teach them who was God, who's his people. He has no equal. He came to save the world. Baruch Hashem, he's still doing it, yes? But one of the main purposes of the life of Yeshua was, in his prime, to give up his life so that we would have life. Okay? So, from the 10th to the 14th day, what is Yeshua doing?
He's pushed from pillar to post. From pillar to...
No, not yet.
That's from that?
From the 10th day to the 14th day. He's being inspected. Where is he being inspected? In the temple. All rabbinic sources will say, when they refer to the house is the temple of God. Okay? They were in the house. That's temple talk. And who was inspecting him? He was going to the Sanhedrin. He was looking at the Sadducees. He was looking at the priests that were in power at that time. And it's a very interesting play. Every time he came up and he spoke, and we find no fault with this man. We find no fault with this man. We find no fault with this man. To the point where Pontius Pilate goes, why is he here? There's nothing wrong with him. Why do you want me to kill this guy? Even a pagan man who believed in false, or in pagan idols and all the rest of it, even he could see that this man there was nothing wrong with him. The declaration didn't only come from the people that were in power, the declaration also came from people of the world. An unblemished male sacrifice being inspected in God's house. And there's also another interesting, funny little play here where we go, the lamb was inspecting those who was inspecting the lamb. While he was being inspected and they couldn't find something wrong with him, the Sanhedrin were busy. They picked their lambs and pulled them into the house, and they're watching them closely. Are they unblemished? Are they perfect? At the same time, the very Lamb of God was standing there going, wait, what are you doing? It's time to get past this hypocrisy. Start acting like what you're dressing like. It's like wearing tzitzit and eating, going out to a place, getting drunk and eating a bacon burger. I'm wearing the outer garments, or I'm wearing what they call in the Hebraic writings, the fig leaf. Remember the cursing of the fig leaf? Or the fig tree? Okay? He came over there and he saw there was no fruit, but there was lots of leaves. Now in Jerusalem, this should never happen, because the way that fig tree buds is that the fruit actually comes out with the leaf at the same time. So you should never see leaves without fruit. But he comes over there and he says, look, all the outer garment, all the things, it looks like is bearing good fruit. But when I look, there's nothing. That was a comparison to what the people were doing in temple. You look all religious, you say all the right things, but when I look for fruit, there's nothing there. So what good are you? And that scares me a little bit. Because I have to ask myself, what fruit am I bearing for God? How can people see change? It doesn't matter if I wear tzitzit. It doesn't matter if I wrap tefillin. It doesn't matter if I study Torah. If you do not see change in my feet and you do not see fruit coming out of me, then I have no purpose. How am I bringing life to people? How am I loving them? How am I showing you whom I serve with what I do? It's not just about this. This is to remind me to do stuff. This is about to remind me who I serve, what I should be doing. It's not to say that I'm perfect, but it's because of my love that I want to serve God. I need to be reminded. You will look and you will see and you will follow. Because last time someone looked and then they saw, we talk about Eve, and she perceived, because she wasn't reminded of God's instruction, she fell short, she made a boo-boo. And Adam sitting right next to her didn't say a word. Have you ever noticed that in the story? She didn't have to go looking for Adam, she turned and she gave him the fruit, said, yeah, I had a bite, your turn. He should have reminded her. Because he didn't. Now the responsibility is on us. Men, you better keep your house up. This is why men wear tzitzit. Not saying it's only for men, but because we continuously need to be reminded, I need to be doing what is right before God, because He's going to look at me and going to go, what are you doing? I gave you that family, I gave you that life, I gave you those children. What are you doing? Is this making sense? Okay? So he gets inspected. He is perfect. They cannot find any fault with him. So he's running around in the temple, being inspected. Back and forth. And we'll read about it. Please. He goes in and out of the temple for the next 4 days. Bethany, temple, and they're walking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Okay? We'll get to that one. While he is on the cross, and remember the word for cross is literally not a well-lumbered, beautifully carpentered cross. Okay? It's literally tree. Okay? It says he will be crucified on a tree. Alright? What they did, according to Josephus and Roman instruction on crucifixion, alright, they would give you a cross beam. Just one solid beam across your back. And you would carry that cross beam, and then they would take it and then they would put you on a tree and it would make that cross shape. Okay? In Israel, there's not a whole bunch of lumber lying around. We don't have massive forests that we just go, oh, that's a really nice tree. Instead of making a palace, I'm going to use it for a convict. No. We have lots of stone. Many of the buildings there, you'll go city after city, ruin after ruin. Stone, 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 stone. Even the mangers. We have these images of these places going, oh look, there's a baby in a feeding trough and it's all perfect and lumbered. No, it was a stone basin cut out. Okay? When we go to Israel, I will show you examples of these things all over the place. Alright? So they used what was there, what was cheap, because I want to embarrass you. From a Roman perspective, you little snotkop, you dare think you're better than anybody else. Okay, and there's a couple of rules for crucifixion. Has to be on a public road, has to be near the main gate. Alright? And I put you at a level, he would have been no higher than this. Okay? Why? Because when I walk past, while I'm going to go do my shopping or come celebrate my feast for Pesach, common criminal, I can spit at him, I can throw stuff, I can abuse him, and I can carry on walking and do my shopping. Around Passover time, in those times, I think it's something like 6 times the population. It was one of God's feasts. You will come up to the place I've put my name and you will celebrate, you will sacrifice this Passover lamb in that place. That's why Yeshua had to die in Jerusalem. And he would go up to the temple and they would sit there on the main road and they would be able to mock him, they would be able to scorn him. And remember, before, while he was being inspected, he was beaten. He was whipped. Okay? Remember the whip? Was it one of those nice, one that leaves thin stripes on? No. The Romans don't do anything in half measures. They had lead-tipped whips. They would make different, probably have like 10 or 15 pieces of leather. They jumped out with leather balls on each designed to catch into the back. And when it came out, it would pull pieces of flesh out with it. And they didn't just whip your back, they whipped you in the front too. Remember, Yeshua went from Galilee knowing that this is what was going to happen. went forward knowing that one day, a few thousand years down the line, he needs to do this because every single one of us needed that to happen. I know it's tough to talk about, but you need to understand this man, God, went to his death willingly. You remember the Isaac story with the binding of Isaac. And remember the parallels. Alright? A son who was about 30 years old, carrying the wood to be a sacrifice, and he goes on to Mount Moriah, trusting wholeheartedly in his father, laying down his life because he looked at his father. His father was like what? How old?
130.
He's probably 130 something. 30-year-old man, 130-year-old man, wrestling match. I don't think Abraham stood a chance. He literally allowed his father to tie him up. He literally laid down on the wood and he was looking at his dad going, okay, what are we going to do?
I just want to take you back to Edmund Getzman when he was ministered. The Bible says he was ministered but to, yes, it is correct, it was Moses and Elijah. But at that particular time, that is when it was troubling him. You must also remember that Jesus Christ was also in the flesh. He was man as much as he was God. At that particular time, as a man, knowing this, understanding exactly what was going to happen to him, it must have troubled him. It must have been so heavy on him, on his shoulders at that particular time, that at that particular moment, God sent Moses and Elijah to come and minister to him, to show him his side of being God, and what sacrifice, this that he was feeling in the flesh, what it actually meant. Meaning, yes, as a man you see in this, but a bigger picture is this. That moment in time. That is why when we're reading about him and understanding him, we realize that he understands us more than we know. He understands exactly how we feel. The things that we go through is because he's gone through them. He understands them. The temptations that we pass through them, he's been into them. Thus he knows that we can, through him, conquer them and move through them as he had done. So I just didn't want us to miss that part, that as a man, at that particular moment, even though he knew this had to happen, being God, he had to be flesh to understand exactly the impact of what he was about to do.
That's exactly what happened at the Garden of Gethsemane. Okay? Remember, you talk about the sacrifice, we're tying in the imagery. When you look at what was going on, and remember we had that slight discrepancy between some people celebrating Passover the day before and some people celebrating Passover later. It was literally 24 hours difference. The disciples and Yeshua sit down and they go through the Seder and they go through the Pesach meal. Alright? And they eat this meal and they sit down at the triclinium, a U-shaped table. Okay? And Yeshua said to them, oh, how I long to eat this Passover with you. And he sits over there, and this symbol, at the time they're celebrating, comes out. Remember, blood on the sides of the doorposts and across the lintel. They were sitting at a U-shaped table. What you're sitting at now, that's what they said. Triclinium. And in Hebrew, there's a wonderful little letter that looks very similar to that. Let me see if I can just show it here. Okay, there's a nice little wave. Okay, comes in like that. Literally is, yeah, there you go, behind Christus head in the Magen David. For those who want to have a look, that's Chai. When we toast, we say L'chaim, which means to life. So a symbol of life is where you're sitting. At that meal where he said what we call the Last Supper, they were sitting at the table of life with the unblemished lamb. And they had no idea what was going to take place. Okay? Remember, after they celebrate Pesach, they run out and he goes, come, come, come. I want you guys, let's go for a walk. And they go out to the Garden of Gethsemane. Okay? On the Mount of Olives. And he says, pray with me. 3 times. Okay? And this is where he needed to be strengthened by the angels came and they ministered to him and they strengthened him. And he was pressed 3 times. Remember, on the Mountain of Olives, the Mashiach, the anointed one. Okay? Ancient times, when we make olives, alright, olive oil, okay, what we do is we take them, pick all the nice things up, we put them in a little basket, a little round basket like this. It's open at the top, but it's all like sort of a net. Okay? We put them in what's called a yam, alright? It's a big stone basin basically that looks like this, and there's a stone called a millstone. Okay, normally from the table up, a small one would be about this size, some of the bigger ones are probably about this big. With a massive hole in the middle, and then you would stick a wooden pole through, and you would put it on a donkey's back, or you would have your servants pick it up, and they would run the millstone in the yam, and they would crush the olives. Alright, and they would go over a few times, because, and it had to be out of basalt rock, a very dark, hard rock, because most of the oil is actually sitting in the sea. So we have to crack them open to get all the oil out, and then we can start scooping up, and we put those packs, pack all that stuff nicely in the pack, and then we put it on what's called a gat shemen, an oil press. And we put a gat shemen on top of these packs, and it is on the bigger ones. You can see if we go to Bet Kruvim, there's like an arch that comes down, and they put 1 stone on. First press. Oil runs out, we scoop the first lot, extra virgin, the good stuff. Okay? Once that starts coming, we take another stone and we put it on, and we put another gat shemen on, and we press again, we get a lower grade oil. And the third time, third stone. At the mountain of Gethsemane. It is literally the mountain of the olive press. They were pressing out the Mashiach. God received. This is the reason why Yeshua prayed 3 times. Because he had to receive the first stone, sins past. Second stone, sins present. Third stone, sins future. Remember, it says, I'll forgive you your sins past, present, and future. And he takes this all on himself. And each time he was going, it's too much, it's too much. And he has that very human moment, and he goes through this fight, and as we all do, you realize, not my will but yours be done. Every person has a choice to make. Right? When you go through this thing of becoming a living sacrifice, what does that mean? Sorry? Giving your all. But what does that mean? What does that mean for me? What does that mean for Vincent?
No more Vincent.
No more Vincent. Exactly. I have to give up everything that I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it, where I wanted to be, and God takes me where I am with all of my emotions, with all of my faults, with all of my past, with all of my issues, and he says, don't worry about your past, I'm going to take that away. I'm going to give you life. I'm going to die to take your place, so that you don't have to suffer the way I suffered. And he lifts you up of that, and you start to make decisions based on what God would do. How do I do that? How do I know what God would do? He told you what he would do. You have Torah for a reason. You have Scripture for a reason. It is to build up, to teach, to rectify any behavior. I think it was 1 Timothy that says all Scripture is good for reproof, rebuke, and teaching. Okay? It talks about, this is what I need you to be. This is how I want you to walk. You're not going to be perfect, but I want you to do it because it's good for you. And all of a sudden my focus is not on what would Vince do, what does Vince want to do, how he wants to do, how he wants to teach, how he wants to do that. It's all of a sudden, Lord, what am I doing today? Where are we going? What do you need from me? It doesn't stop you from being you. It just means he takes all of you. He knows we have emotions. He knows we have brains. And sometimes the biggest struggle we have is to switch off our brain and follow our heart. And at other times we have to switch off our heart and follow our brain. You know what I'm saying? The difference is, when I overthink something, when I know God is true and He's already told me, it's okay, I got this. No, but I need to make a plan. I need to do something. I can't just sit here. How are we going to get out of the situation? Surely if I think, if I can come up with something. How many of you have felt that little bit of a, plan's destroyed. And we have to start again. And the flip side of that coin is that, Lord, I